Welcome everyone to our YouTube series, Test Prep Made Easy. So in this particular series, we are going to post regularly questions on our YouTube channel. The questions may pertain to CAT preparation, maybe pertaining to GMAT preparation, as well as of various topics which are tested in these particular exams. For example, quants, LRDI, English, and various areas which are tested. And each day we will handle certain number of questions and their video solutions. The best approach is to these questions in these videos. So have a happy preparation ahead and enjoy the video. Thank you.
All right, so these are the questions that we are going to try in today's video. If you have tried it already from the thumbnail, good enough. If you haven't, you can pause the video at this point and try it once before you look into the solutions. We recommend you doing that. But if you just want to enjoy the solution, that's also good enough. And go ahead and watch the solutions now. All right, we have a PNC problem. So we have been given that the number that we are trying to figure out how many numbers. The numbers should have at most 4 digits and can be formed using the digits 2, 3, 4, 5 if repetition of digits is allowed. Okay, if by the way, I hope everybody is aware of this. If this thing would not have been mentioned, still repetition of digits are allowed. So in case of numbers and all, if nothing has been mentioned, then ideally repetition of digits are allowed. So basically what we are looking for is how many numbers can we form using only the digits 2, 3, 4, 5, but the numbers have to be at most 4-digit long. So that is what the question is talking about. Let me just show you the basic way of doing this. So what we can do is we can figure out the single digit numbers, 1-digit numbers, 2-digit numbers, 3-digit numbers, and 4-digit numbers. So we can just figure out all of these, keeping in mind that only these digits are allowed and repetition is allowed. So 1-digit number are obviously 4. You can pick any one of these 4 digits. For 2-digit numbers, there are 2 places out here. 1 digit will be occupying one of the places. Since repetition is allowed, each of these places can be occupied by any of the 4 digits, right? So a total of 4 square options are there. Similarly, for 3-digit, you have 3 places. Each of these can be occupied by any of the 4 digits, no restriction. So there will be 4 cube options. For 4-digit numbers, again, similarly, you can do this. There will be 4 to the power 4 options. So brute force, just count it out. 4 square is 16. 4 cube is 64. Simply multiply 4 to the previous one if you're not aware of it. And 4 to the power 4 is 16 square, right? So that is 256. And simply add all of these cases. So 256 plus 64 is as good as 260 plus 60. So that is 320. And then you have 16 plus 4, which is 20. So 320 plus 20, that is a total of 340 numbers of first option out here. So pretty straightforward. You can actually consider bases as well. But why overcomplicate? You have to consider a lot of different things also if you use bases out here. So this is the smartest way to handle this question. There is no second guessing about it. There are other ways to do this, but then you will overcomplicate a few situations. You have to be careful in those cases. This is the easiest way you can handle this question. And I hope everybody has understood this because there's nothing too much complication in this problem any which way. So that's it for this problem. Thank you for joining in. We have a fairly simple dice problem, probability question based on dice. So there are 2 fair dice which are thrown simultaneously. And let me use this color. So 2 fair dice thrown simultaneously. What is the probability that one die shows a number greater than 4 and the other die shows a number less than 3? Okay, so we'll just do it in the very basic manner. So we'll just figure out the total outcomes, and then we'll figure out the favorable outcomes and find the probability in this manner. So the very basic foundation of probability. So by the way, when 2 fair dice are thrown simultaneously, the total outcomes or the sample space will have 6 into 6 total of 36 possibilities, right? So any dice has 6 outcomes. So 2 dice thrown simultaneously, there is 6 into 6, 36 possible outcomes, right? Now, out of them, the favorable one, what are we looking for? One die shows a number greater than 4. So it doesn't say which die, right? So it says one die shows a number greater than 4. So by the way, one of the die must show us 5 or 6, number greater than 4. And the other die has to show a number less than 3. So number less than 3 is only 1 or 2. So we are looking for combination of this, right? So first of all, these two things can occur simultaneously. So 2 into 2, basically 4 possible outcomes, right? So 5, 1, 5, 2, 6, 1, 6, 2, something like that. So we have a total of 4 possible arrangements, or rather distribution of these two numbers over the two die. But we don't know which die is getting the 5 and which die is getting the 1. For example, if I pick up 5, 1 as the two outcomes in the two die, the first die could be 5, the second die could be 1, as well as the first die could be 1 and the second die could be 5, right? So we can have both 5, 1 and 1, 5 as an outcome. You might be pondering in these kind of cases when to consider this and when to not. Just think about the total outcomes. What did you do? You counted 6 into 6, total of 36 outcomes, right? So just think about it. I mean, when you're doing 6 into 6, you are counting 5 for this and 1 for this, as well as 1 for this and 5 for this. You are counting these two cases differently in the total outcomes, right? So if you're doing this in the total outcomes, you should do that in the favorable outcomes as well. So the favorable outcomes will be basically each of those 4 outcomes in two different arrangements. So for example, the 5, 1 that I explained. So for each of those 4 outcomes, you can have two different arrangements. So 5 for the first, 1 for the second, or 1 for the first, 5 for the second. Same thing for the other combinations as well. So we have a total of 8 favorable outcomes. So the required probability will be simply 8 by 36. So cancel out the 4. You have 2 by 9 as your answer, which is option C. So pretty straightforward question. Just be careful in these kind of cases. Don't mark the answer as 1 by 9. And if you forget to multiply this 2, then you will make that mistake. So if you tend to make those mistakes, just think in that way, as I mentioned. I mean, think about the total outcomes that you have considered. Whether you have considered the 5, 1 and 1, 5 both in the total outcomes as well. If you have, then you should consider here as well, because the question doesn't say the first die should get the 5 or more than 4, and the second die should get less than 3. It just says one die should have a number greater than 4, and the other die should have a number less than 3. So yeah, that's it for this problem. Nothing too complicated, a very straightforward one. You can do it with the very basic this is the first thing that you learn in probability, right? Favorable outcomes by total outcomes. So very basic foundation question. So that's it for this problem. I hope everything was understood. Thank you for joining in. Well, this is a problem which I can discuss in a lot of different ways. Let me show two smart way to figure this out. So the question says a bus covered a distance of 160 kilometers in 4 hours, covering a part of it at 30 kilometers per hour and the remaining at 70 kilometers per hour. So for how much time did the bus travel at 70 kilometers per hour? So what you can do is we can start by imagining, so assuming something like this. So assuming that the entire 4 hours, the bus traveled, or let me put it in this way, at the rate of 30 kilometers per hour. So let us assume this. So the entire 4 hours, the bus actually traveled with 30 kilometers per hour. But in this case, the total distance that the bus would have covered was 120 kilometers, right? Simply time into speed. So 120 kilometers, 4 into 30, right? But now think about the actual one. So actually the bus has covered 160 kilometers instead of this 120 kilometers, right? Which is an excess of 40 kilometers, right? So what do we have to do? So we know that partly the bus has covered 30 kilometers per hour. In this case, you have assumed everything in 30 kilometers per hour. So effectively, we have to, change some of these 4 hours from the speed of 30 kilometers per hour to 70 kilometers per hour, right? So we just have to change the speed. Now, every hour you make this change, you travel an excess of 40 kilometers, isn't it? So instead of covering 30 kilometers in 1 hour, now you're traveling 70 kilometers in 1 hour. So every such change will increase the speed by 40 kilometers. And that is precisely what we require, right? So it could very well have been that this would have been 60 kilometers. So 40 kilometer changes, how many do we require? We require 1.5 of that, right? But in this case, it's a direct parity. So we just need one such change. So what does that imply? So the bus must have covered 1 hour in this speed and the remaining 3 hours. So remember that initially we assumed that the entire 4 hours the bus has traveled with 30 kilometer per hour. So if the 1 hour we are changing to 70 kilometer per hour, the remaining 3 hours we are still traveling with a speed of 30 kilometer per hour, right? Now you can verify if you want. So this is a total distance of 70 and this is a total distance of 90, which is actually adding up to this 160, right? So we have got our answer for how much time did he travel for 70 kilometer per hour. So that is 1 hour, option D. The other method you can also apply is alligation out here, but you have to be careful about one thing in these kind of questions. In this case, there is a less chance that you make that mistake, but let me just show that. So there are two types of speeds out here, 30 kilometer per hour and 70 kilometer per hour. And if you notice the average speed, so that is a 40 kilometer per hour, right? So just apply alligation, take the ratio. So we have a 30 and a 10, so that is 3:1. So we get a ratio of 3:1, but you should know this, that this is the ratio of the time. The reason for that is these speeds. So if you just notice the unit of any speed, just notice the speed unit, any unit for that matter. It's kilometer per hour. This is the easiest way to do this. So speed is distance upon time. So the reason I was saying notice the unit, because in this case you would be aware that speed is distance by time, but for any arbitrary question, whenever you're applying alligation, so if you're not sure what the rate is, so what by what, just notice the unit. Okay, so rupees per kg. So notice the denominator, it is kg. So in this case it is kilometer per hour. The denominator is what? Denominator is hour, so that is time. That will indicate what this ratio is of. So in this case, since the unit is kilometer per hour and all, so this will be the ratio of time. The reason I'm pointing this out is in this question, you will not make a mistake, because even if you do it without knowing it, you will see that there's a ratio of 3:1. Okay, we are looking for how much time. So 4 hours is what we are trying to distribute this 3:1. So basically there should be 3 hours and there should be 1 hour, right? So you're getting an answer 70 kilometer per hour at 1 hour. But then suppose this question would have been asking for distance. So in that case, if you, I mean, instead of asking for time, suppose the question would have asked for how much distance did he cover at the speed of 70 kilometer per hour. Now, in that case, if you assume that this 3:1 is the unit ratio of distance, obviously you're not going to get the right answer. So you will distribute the 160 kilometer in 3:1. So according to you, it should be 120 and 40 kilometers, right? So this is a wrong answer, because I hope you can see here, he actually covers 70 kilometers at the speed of 70 kilometer per hour. So this was the distances, right? 70 kilometer and 90 kilometers. So you will get a wrong answer. So just remember this whenever there's an alligation thing, you're applying alligation, the ratio will always the denominator of the rates or averages, whatever it is. So in this case, that is time. So that is very simple, because that is what the question is looking for. So just distribute the entire time that you have, the 4 hours, in this ratio. So 3 hours and 1 hour. They're looking for 70 kilometer per hour. So that should give you 1 hour as the answer. So a couple of methods here. Both are simple enough. Whichever you want to apply is fine. Equally strong, equally, in terms of time management as well. So that's it. That's all I had to add for this question. Hopefully everything was understood. Thank you for joining in. We have a very basic question on percentages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to illustrate everything in terms of values itself. So you'll understand, I mean, values, I mean, if you know how to relate the things with values, it's very easy to, visualize these kind of things. So let's read each and every information first of all. So Ram spends 80% of his annual salary. Great. If his annual salary increased by 14% and his expenditure increased by 10%, his savings would increase by. So now, whenever I have read this question, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what values should I start with and what should it represent? So for example, in this case, I know that there are a couple of things that are being related. We are relating in the first statement the salary with the expenditure. Ram spends 80% of his annual salary. And later on, this initial annual salary, how much it has increased by whatever expenditure, how much that has increased by, that is what the question is talking about, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to consider the initial salary of Ram as 100. So I'll start with this value. Next, we know from the first statement that Ram is spending 80%. So that is the expenditure. He's spending 80% of this 100, which is 80, right? So he spends 80 of his salary, which I've assumed it to be 100. Now, finally, in the later stage, a couple of things happen. One is his salary is increasing by 14%. So it becomes 114. And the expenditure increases by 10%. So this is the expenditure initially. This increases by 10%. So increases by 8. So that is 88, right? Now our job is done, because what we can do is using these values, I can figure out the initial saving and the new saving, something like that. So initially he was saving 20 bucks. Now he's saving 114 minus 88, which is 6 less than 30. So 24 bucks, right? Just 1 second, 26 bucks, sorry. Yeah, 4 less than that thing. So yeah, so basically from 20 to 26, that is the change in the savings. And what is the question looking for? Is savings would increase by. So we are looking for this as a percentage change, right? So we're looking for 6 by 20 as a percentage. So this is 3 by 10 or 30% as the answer. So pretty straightforward question, nothing too much into this. In these cases, you can assume variables. So if you do assume variables, don't consider this to be X. My suggestion, consider that to be 100X. Then everything you'll get in terms of X, and you will get the same answer, no issues at all. Just avoid fractions. That is my point. In calculation, as much fractions and decimals you can avoid, that much faster your calculation will automatically become. By the way, this is the entire thing that I wanted to discuss for this problem. I hope everything was understood. Thank you.
Hopefully you liked the solutions we provided for these questions. And if you did like it, do not forget to like the video and share, subscribe, and comment. Do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon. In that case, you'll get notification as soon as we upload a new video. And if you want to check a bouquet of courses that we provide, so we have a huge variant of courses from customizability to full preparation. You can check our website, www.mathoratory.com. I'll leave the link in the description below. And have an enjoyable preparation ahead. Welcome to the Math Oratory family, and have a good exam ahead.